What's happening? So today I'm going to be sharing how I got to ayahuasca looking back. By the way, I just did a parasite cleanse that I finished like 2 weeks ago. Feel great. I don't know if I'm still detoxing. I think I am, given some of the things that are going on in my body. And I looked like tired, which I kind of am, and then I got punched in the face, but I didn't, but it looks cool. There's a book from Wayne Dyer. It's one of my favorite books. It's called I Can See Clearly Now. And I'm trying to think how old he was. He was probably 70 or close to 70 when he wrote it. It was a few years, maybe 5 years or less, before he died, I think. And it's a really cool book because all these different things that happen that could be difficult, that shouldn't happen, that happened this way, set him up to be exactly where he was and be who he is, and just the magic of life, the serendipities. And with a lot of that stuff, a lot of stuff doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So I wanted to share that and how I got to ayahuasca. As I'm thinking about it and new things are popping in my mind, it surprises me. Like the weirdness. Again, feel free, however you view this. Could be a coincidence. Could say, it doesn't make sense. Do I have Mambe on my chin? Maybe not, I can't tell. So getting into it, we have Mambe and Ambil. This is powdered coca leaf, Mambe. In Peru, they'll use more of the leaf, like if you're hiking for altitude sickness. This kind of has an effect like coffee. To me, it's a bit milder than coffee. And then this Ambil, which is tobacco and some salts, plant salts. So, for those of you new to the channel, I'm Phil Jelovic. I live in Colombia. I'm from the States. I'm from the Midwest, Wisconsin to be precise. I've been down in Colombia 8.5 years now. So I do think I'll leave at some point. I'd like to round out at a decade. That would have a nice thing to it. But I do think I'll come back to the States at some point. And how I got here, and looking back, one of the first things that I looked back, and it was weird, my mom had a lady come to the house and just paint like images on the walls, right? Like my sister wanted gymnastic stuff and dolphins. My brother wanted baseball stuff. And this is, 30 years ago. I was like 10 years old, maybe a couple years older. And back then I was really into snakes and I was really into sharks. And when my mom asked, what do you want painted in your room? I remember going, the Amazon jungle. I wasn't into that at all, ever. If there was a snake in the jungle, I thought that was cool. But it was just interesting how that's the conclusion I came to. Ayahuasca comes from Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, and Colombia. I live down here in Medellin, which would be like the Los Angeles of Colombia. Where we normally work with ayahuasca is about an hour outside Medellin. It's called Hiradota. And I have drank in Putumayo, which is like Amazon, once so far. I'll probably go again later this year, next year. So one of the main animals of ayahuasca, if you've seen, there's different ones. A snake is a very common one. And actually, I'm just connecting that now that I like snakes as well. Back then, I didn't make that connection till right now. So you're watching this unfold. Hope it's entertaining and weird and funny as well. And the jaguar, I wasn't into jaguars at all. Had this jaguar that was the center point of these sketches on, these paintings on the wall in my bedroom. And then later, my mom was getting, buying some kind of art stuff. It was like, hey, do you want anything for your room? I'm like, black jaguar. And why this is significant is I made no connection whatsoever to that being connected. Like the main animal, or one of the 2-3 main animals of ayahuasca, was literally above my bed and on my wall kind of randomly for a decade or more. I guess more. And the fact that I wanted it was also strange. So that happened. And then in 2015, started dating a Colombian woman in Chicago. And we're dating for a year. And we break up. We get back together. She moves to Bogota, where she's from, but she hadn't lived there in 25 years. Or something like that, 20 years. We do long distance a bit, Chicago to Colombia. She's visiting States, I'm visiting there. And then long story short, I go, okay, I just got this remote coaching job. You know what? I was actually thinking about moving to Latin America now that I got this remote job. And moved to Bogota. Now, if I didn't meet her, if we didn't start dating, would I have got to ayahuasca the way I got to it? Because what's very different is, not that it's good, bad, right, or wrong necessarily. Some things can be out of line with how a ceremony is done. If someone in, let's say, the States or Canada drinks ayahuasca and then goes to Peru for 2 weeks and nominates themselves to be a shaman and is making ayahuasca and serving it to people, that's extremely dangerous on so many levels. That's physically dangerous, emotionally, spiritually. I do know of people that have had permanent problems or semi-permanent problems for years by going to someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So my vantage point, all the medicine I've ever worked with has been legally and in Latin America. Virtually everything in Colombia. One time I drank in a Santo Daime, like a Christian ayahuasca church in Brazil. So, it's a different style too of, what's here versus what's in the States. So anyways, how I got here, had that girl, going back to that, had the girlfriend, moved to Colombia, living in Bogota. After about a month, I'm like, gosh, this girl is amazing, which I already knew. That's why I wanted to get back with her. And then I was like, God, we're so similar in so many ways. And I think we're too different, like to really be compatible. And it was at that time, my deepest connection, one of the women I had a lot of compatibility with. And I realized that and was like, oh my God, I moved to Colombia 25 days ago. I sold everything I own. What the fuck did I do? And I told her, and we talked about it, and we both agreed, and she later saw my point, and I was just prideful and embarrassed. Like, I don't want to go back to Chicago less than a month later with my tail between my legs. Excuse my water drinking. I'd heard so much about Medellin. It has a big party scene. If you haven't heard, it's kind of like the Vegas of South America. I was heartbroken. I moved to Medellin. It's like, try it out for 2 weeks. I don't know, whatever. Had Lyme disease at the time, had mold poisoning, and was just heartbroken. And had a lot of kind of regret or not sure, did I make the right decision? I've never met anyone like her. So I'm here not having much fun in Medellin the first 6 months. A lot of other foreigners having quite a bit of fun, partying, women, all kinds of stuff. And I'd heard about ayahuasca. I'd taken mushrooms once. And I did what they call the vaccine of the jungle, which means 3 combos. More on that in another video. Combos, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. These little dots on my arm. Yeah, you can kind of see it. So that's a frog medicine that's applied on the skin. And yeah, just done mushrooms once. Not in the best setting, but okay. And 3 combos. I never, other than that, I didn't really have psychedelic experience. So heartbroken, Camila and I broke up, dating Camila is what brought me here, essentially. I might have ended up here because I had the remote job. And then I'm in Medellin. I'm trying to resolve stuff with Lyme disease, with mold poisoning. I had an infected root canal. I got that pulled out. I started to feel a bit better. And then, I'm at this cafe one day, and some dude walks up and he goes, "Hey, I heard you say, what was it? Tony Robbins, racing motorcycles, ayahuasca, and Tim Ferriss. It caught my attention. Can I join the conversation?" I was like, "Yeah, this guy's cool. We like the same stuff." I was really into all those things back then. Hadn't done ayahuasca, and he goes, "I did it, 6 months ago or something, and it changed my life. I'm going to start this foundation, And it was a foundation for, I believe, helping fathers reconnect with their kids that they were estranged from divorce." And I'm like, "You're not going again anytime soon, are you?" He's like, "I'm going in 3 weeks. Going to this place called La Ceiba." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I'm like, I'm in. I don't know this guy. He's a tall, skinny white dude from South Africa. And I was just like, "Yeah, I'll go." Brought 4 or 5 other people. And it's weird looking back, because it was, when was that? I think 2 years ago. So I've worked with ayahuasca about exactly 8 years. So 6 years at that point. And I'm sitting in a maloca, like an ayahuasca hut. And and something with the jaguar just stood out. I go, "Why did I have jaguars in my bedroom?" I go, "That made no sense. I didn't like jaguars. I didn't like lions. I didn't like tigers. I like sharks and I like snakes." I was like, why would I have changed my whole bedroom to be centered around a jaguar? And then I got a giant black jaguar, which is a real thing, not a panther, a black jaguar with spots above my bed. And then I'm like, huh. And then years later, I meet a Colombian girlfriend. Okay. And then we get back together and she moves back, and that actually brings me to Colombia. Huh. But I was already considering going there before we got back together. Just got this remote job. Huh. And then I'm having an okay time in Medellin. It's nice, I like it, but I'm stressed out. I didn't speak Spanish. I didn't dance salsa. I was very lazy when it came to Spanish. And I'm sitting here, and then I bump into this guy. And those are just a couple of the serendipities that brought me to this place. And a fascinating thing about ayahuasca, I don't think it's for everyone, first of all. I think if you have a call, it can be profoundly life-changing. And I've seen people that went for a retreat, meaning they do 3, 4, 5 ceremonies, they never go again. I've seen people that have worked with it for years. I've seen people that have, which is more my category, doing it and learning and growing, at times not integrating, at times spiritual bypassing, at times using it as escapism, also using it as healing, realizing the error in your ways. So there's different ways to work with it. But it's interesting how it calls people. I was just with a guy, bumped into some dude at the sauna, me and 2 other buddies that drink ayahuasca. And young guy, great shape, nice guy, good vibe. And we start talking about it, and he's like, what do you say? He's like, "Yeah, it's interesting you're telling me about that." So one of the main drug contradictions with ayahuasca is marijuana, believe it or not. Like, one of the worst contradictions, that it interferes. And not that you should do other drugs, and that's fine, but that's the big one. And this guy's like, "Yeah, I got to Medellin a few weeks ago, instantly quit smoking weed. And it's interesting, in the apartment I'm renting, there's a book on ayahuasca on the coffee table. I haven't opened it, but it's been calling my attention." So if you've watched this video to, what are we at, 15 minutes, almost? Why do you think you should do ayahuasca? And by the way, again, It's kind of my bias, but also I believe it's true. Go to a place where it's actually from. Don't do ayahuasca in Austin, Miami, New York. You can, but if you have a passport, it's very easy just to fly 7 hours to Colombia, Brazil, Peru, Ecuador. It's very easy. Costa Rica. Ayahuasca is not from Costa Rica, but there are, some of them are like spas, like ayahuasca spas in Costa Rica. I've heard great things from some, not so great from others, whatever. But at least it's closer to where it's from. Do you need to actually go to the jungle? No, I don't think so. Personally, I'm not as much of a fan of the jungle. I will go back. It's nice to, I live in Medellin, 45 minutes an hour. I'm at the healing center. But yeah, that's some of the serendipities and looking back how I got to ayahuasca. And I'll close with this, like things that have happened. I initially went there just because I had health problems, and I was curious and desperate, honestly. I have a documentary here on YouTube that talks all about it. And I went to ceremony after ceremony, and for me it's convenient because it's, an hour away. It's not like I have to fly to another country. And I'd go to 1 or 2 ceremonies, and then the guy goes, we have a retreat, which is 4 ceremonies, like right in a row. Pretty intense back then. Hey, can you help me with my health? Can you help me with my health? Something's wrong with my health. Can you help me? And the ayahuasca would never acknowledge me. It works different with everyone, depending on your relationship, depending on so many factors. But you may feel things, sense things, it may feel like a person talking to you. But it showed all this great information, helped me with my breakup with my former girlfriend, showed me stuff. I remember one day looking in the mirror and I was like, I'm a good person. And it was really weird. It was like the first time I saw myself in years or decades. And it wasn't like, I'm good because I did this, or because I'm gonna date this girl, or have this truck, or a cool apartment, or I work for this coaching company. It was just like, wow, I'm a great person. Just who I am, my being, my soul, my character. And it was really beautiful to see myself that way. And then after probably like 15 ceremonies, probably about 6 months, I kept going back because I was like, I need something to heal me. Like I said, I was desperate. My past, not everyone. Like, I've heard people healed from disease with this stuff. Maybe it'll work. I'll go back. Okay, next month, maybe I'll work. Maybe it'll work. Okay, I'm learning a lot. Okay, how did I let go of that relationship in just a night when I had been so much pain for 6 months? Okay. And then one day, something just lifted off me. And I remember either whether you intuit it or you feel it, I don't remember back then because it changes. And it was like, hey, you want to talk about your health today? I'm like, yeah, I've been coming for 6 months. Like thanks, ayahuasca. Like, I'm not going to be too cocky or like a dick, but thanks. And it was like, and I don't know what it did. Like, if you ask me rationally, and it was like, you think your body's, what did it say? It was like, you think your body's sick, your body's fine. And I felt something lift off me. I wasn't sick after that moment. There was still kind of healing, but something changed in that moment. I don't know what I suspect it did, looking back, that it didn't cure me per se. It did, but it didn't. It told me that I was healed, and I believed it. So in a way, I healed me, or I let go, and it, helped arrange this meeting per se. That was a big thing, a huge thing. I think I forgot to talk about that in the documentary, actually. And then, like I said, the first breakup, there's been more breakups, not just that one. It's another big one last year. It was a big shift for me. And another thing was, after 2 years of drinking ayahuasca, a little more than 2 years. I've had this happen a few times. It's kind of like a warning. So I know it happened recently and I was like, and the ayahuasca was like, are you ready? I was like, what does that mean? I was like, that means it's going to be something I need to see that maybe I don't want to see. I was like, this is going to be hard. I was like, okay. It's like, are you ready? I was like, I mean, I guess maybe not, but I'm here. So like, let's do it. Like like I wasn't enthusiastic. And the ayahuasca, maybe I should save that one for another video. We're already at 20 minutes. I'll save that one for tomorrow's video. If you're curious about ayahuasca and profound healing, specifically sexual abuse, I'll share that story tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for not minding me too tired of my red eye. And got some ozone tomorrow. I'll look even better and feeling more energetic this week. Thanks for tuning in, and much, much more medicine stories, not just ayahuasca, but a variety of medicines I've tried over the years here in Colombia.